Hello everyone. Now we will start with the agents which are responsible for pollination. Earlier we have done with three types of pollination. One is called as autogamy, second is called as geitonogamy, and third is so called as xenogamy. Now in today's lecture we will see which kind of agents are generally responsible for pollination. So they are categorized into two types. One is called as abiotic agent and second is so called as biotic agent. The name itself indicates abiotic, that is, there must be non-living agents involved for that pollination, and therefore the term is so called as abiotic agent. So first we will see abiotic agent. These are non-living agents which include wind and water. So first we will see the pollination by wind, which is so called as anemophily. So most of the important crop plants are wind pollinated. For example, wheat, rice, corn, then barley, oats, all of them they are pollinated by using wind, and palms are also wind pollinated. So adaptations in anemophilous flower. So which kind of adaptations must be there in a flower, so in order to undergo the anemophily type of pollination? So those adaptations are flowers are small and inconspicuous, matlab those are not clearly visible, they are very small in size. Then they are colorless, they are without nectar, that is, there is no more presence of sugar rich liquid or fragrance. So there is no more presence of nectar and no more presence of fragrance. Pollen grains, they are light in weight, they are dry, and they are produced in large number to increase the chances of pollination, considering the wastage of pollen grains. And that's why those pollen grains so form, they are light in weight and they are produced in large numbers, so that though there is chances of wastage, the pollination must takes place. And that's why pollen grains are light in weight, they are dry, they are produced in large numbers to increase the chances of pollination. So if you observe this, the stigma is feathery to trap the pollens carried by the wind current. So this feathery stigma I have shown you in a picture. So this type of stigma are there, which is used to catch that pollen. So which is used to trap that pollen. Okay, stamens, they are exudated stamens. What it means? Exudated stamens means those stamens are coming out through that whatever petals, and therefore it is so called as exudated stamens. So projecting beyond the petals with a long filament and versatile anther, stamens and stigma are exposed to air currents. So if you observe the exerted stamen, I have shown you this in the diagram. See, stamens, they are coming out through that petals, which is so called as exudated stamens. Second is water by pollination by water. So water is the second abiotic agent so involved, and the name is so called as hydrophily. So since water is the carrying agent which is going to carry that pollen, so those plant has to be inside the water or near the water surface. So this is found in some 30 genera of aquatic monocots, for example Vallisneria, Zostera, then Ceratophyllum, etc. And those adaptations in such, so I have shown you the diagram. See, Vallisneria, the first diagram is there, okay, second is Zostera, and third is Ceratophyllum. Adaptation in hydrophilous flower. So what kind of adaptations must be there in a flower to undergo the hydrophily type of pollination? First, flowers are small and inconspicuous, that is, these are very small in size. Then perianth and other flora parts, they are unwettable. So since they are present inside the water or they are present nearby the water surface, the perianth and other flora parts has to be unwettable, which cannot be weighed by the water. Pollen grains are long and unweightable due to the presence of mucilage, and since they are present near by the water surface or inside the water, that pollen grain should not get weighed by the water, and that's why it is written they are unweightable due to presence of mucilage. Nectar and fragrance are lacking in flowers. So since those plants of flower, they are inside the water itself, and that's why there is no more presence of nectar, that is sugar rich liquid or fragrance. So hydrophily, it is of two types now. One is so called as hypohydrophily and second is so called as epihydrophily. So what are those two types that we will see in some more detail? Hypohydrophily, So whenever pollination occurs below the surface of water or inside the water, then that is so called as hypohydrophily. So pollen grains, they are heavier than the water, so they sink down and caught by the stigmas of the female flower. So in Zistera, that is seagrass, the pollen grains are long, ribbon and without exine. Okay, so if you observe this Zistera, the second diagram, in that case, those pollen grains, they are heavier than water, so they sink down. Okay, second diagram देखो, so this is somewhat grass like plant is there. Okay, so those pollen grains, they are heavier than water, पानी में नीचे रहेंगे, that's why since they are heavier than water, they sink down and then they are caught by the stigmas of the female flower. So in that case, as far as example of Zostera is concerned, the pollen grains are long, ribbon like and without exine. So the second middle diagram, it is of Zostera, which is somewhat grass. It's said to possess grass-like structure and therefore it is also called as a sea grass. Okay, next is epihydrophily. The pollen grains floats on the surface of water and reach the stigma of the female flower. And this is mostly observed in Vallisneria. Vallisneria is a submerged dioecious. See, if you observe the diagram, it is inside the whole body part is there. Okay, and whatever flowers are there, they are floating onto the surface of what we can say, water. Okay, so those, if you observe the diagram, see those whatever pollen grains are there, they are carried away by that water, and those pollen grains comes in contact with the flower which are floating over there. So for example, Vallisneria is a submerged dioecious fresh water aquatic plant in which female flower reach the water surface temporarily to ensure the pollination, and male flowers float onto the surface of the water. So if you observe the diagram, the left hand side, whatever plant is there, that is a male plant, so which floats onto the surface of the water, and those pollen grains from that plant then reaches towards the flower. Okay, and the pollination takes place. So for that, specific gravity of the pollen grain must be equal to the water so that it can float over the water surface, and that is why they can float onto the surface of water and can reach to the flower or can reach to the stigma of that flower. So which is so called as epihydrophily. So I think both cases must be clear to you. One is called as hypohydrophily and second is so called as epihydrophily. So some aquatic plants, they are anemophilous. For example, Potamogeton. The first diagram, it is of Potamogeton. Second is Halogaris. Okay. Third is water hyacinth. This water hyacinth, it's commonly observed. It's near the what we can say, lake, and the last one is water lily. So all of them, they are anemophilous in nature. So these are somewhat anemophily, where the what kind of water is serving as a agent to carry the pollen grains. Next is biotic agent. So the name itself indicate is those agent must be living. Okay, so about 80% of the plant require the help of other living moving creatures such as insect, bird, bats, snails to transfer their pollens from one flower to another. And this also sustain our ecosystem and produce natural resources by helping plants to reproduce. So the name itself indicate biotic. It means that there must be, those agents must be living in nature, and they includes, or it includes some moving or living creatures like insect, birds, bats and snails. First is pollination by insect, which is so called as entomophily. So it occurs in rose, jasmine and cestrum. Okay, so where insects are serving as the agent to carry the pollen. Okay, so first is rose, second is jasmine, and third is nothing but cestrum. So what kind of adaptations are there in the entomophilous flower? They are large, showy and often brightly colored. So they are brightly colored. Then the flower produce sweet odor, smell and have nectar glands, that is a sugar rich liquid, so that it can catch those insects or it can attract those insects. The stigma is rough due to the presence of hair, or it is sticky due to the mucilaginous secretion. So these are the adaptations in entomophilous flower. Then pollen grains are spiny and surrounded by a yellow sticky substance which is so called as pollen kete. Okay, so the pollen grain said to possess a yellow sticky substance which is so called as pollen kete. And the diagram downside shown to you, it is said to possess some special adaptation for insect visitor to help in cross pollination. So to get that pollen, if you observe that diagram, see that flower is said to possess somewhat pipe like structure, which is a turnpipe. Okay, and therefore it is so called as turnpipe mechanism, which is in salvia or lever mechanism. So some plant shows you the special adaptations for that insect visitor to help in cross pollination, and for example lever mechanism or turnpipe mechanism in salvia. Second is pollination by birds, which is so called as ornithophily. Okay, so only few type of birds are specialized for pollination, which said to possess small size and long beaks. For example, sunbirds or hummingbirds. They are generally used to carry the pollen, or they are carrying pollens. So which said to possess long beak and small size. So which kind of plants are there in that which it is observed? So some ornithophilous plants are bombax. So first diagram it is of bombax, then second is of callistemon, which is called bottle brush, and third is butea. Okay, so if you observe all those three pictures, it is clearly indicate that all those flowers are brightly colored. Okay, so that is the adaptations required for ornithophilous pollination. See, adaptation in ornithophilous flower. First it is written, flowers are usually brightly colored, they are large and showy, so that those type of flowers can attract those birds towards themselves. Then they secrete profuse, that is dilute nectar. Then pollen grains are sticky and spiny, so that they can easily get adhere to those birds, okay, or legs of those birds. Flowers are generally without fragrance, as birds have pure sense of smell. So since birds do not have that much sense for smell, and therefore those flowers, it is not necessary for those flowers to show the smell. So there is those flowers are without fragrance. Then the third is pollination by bats, which is so called as chiropterophily. So bats can transport pollens over a long distance, sometimes more than kilometers or several kilometers. So what kind of adaptations are required in chiropterophilous flowers? First, it is dull colored with a strong fragrance. Okay. Then second is secrete abundant nectar. Then flower produce large amount of edible pollen grains, that is Anthocephalus, which is a kadam tree, then Adansonia, which is a baobab tree, and third is Kigelia, that is sausage tree. So all of them, they are pollinated with the help of bats, and which is so called as chiropterophily. So first is kadam tree, it is Anthocephalus. Then second is baobab tree, which is Adansonia. There is a speciality for baobab trees. It is also known as tree of life. Why? Because it can live up to 1000 years, storing almost 120,000 liters of water. And the last one, which is so called as sausage tree, which is called as Kigelia. So all of them, they are pollinated by using bats, and therefore the conditions or the adaptations so required are, they are dark colored with a strong fragrance, then they secrete abundant nectar, and flower produce large amount of edible pollen grains. And these are the three plants or the trees which are pollinated by using bats. Then outbreeding devices. So many plants have a mechanism that discourage or prevent self-pollination, and to promote the cross-pollination and increase genetic variety, the plant must have evolved a wide range of sexual strategies, and genetic diversity is an essential factor for evaluation by the natural selection. So continued self-pollination results in inbreeding depression, and thus plants have developed many devices to encourage the cross-pollination. So what are those, what kind of examples are there as far as the outbreeding devices are concerned? Is nothing but unisexuality. What it means, either there is a male plant or there is a female plant. So in this case, the plant bears either the male or the female flowers, so also called as dioecium, where the male and female reproductive organs are different, or male and female plants are different. So as the flowers are unisexual, self-pollination is not possible. See, if two different plants are there, one is a female plant and second is a male plant bearing the respective reproductive organs, then in that case, or in those type of plants, those are flowers are said to be unisexual, and since there is no more presence of both reproductive organs, female and as well as male, onto the same plant, and therefore self-pollination is not feasible in that case. So plants may be monoecious. For example, what it means is nothing but both male and female reproductive organs are onto the same plant. So maize, it comes under the dioecious, whereas mulberry and papaya, it's come under the monoecious. Next is dichogamy. What it means? In this device, anthers and stigma, they are mature at a different time in a bisexual flower, so that's to prevent the self-pollination. And it can be divided into two types. One is called as protandry and second is called as protogyny. What it means, that will be seen in some more detail. So what is the meaning for dichogamy is nothing but both male and female reproductive organs are present onto the same flower, and that's why it is written bisexual flower. But only difference is that both anthers and stigma, they are maturing at different time, and therefore self-pollination is not feasible in such kind of a flower. First is protandry. So in this type, androecium matures earlier than the gynoecium. So if you observe the florets of sunflower, in the first picture I shown you the florets of sunflower, how that florets will look like. See, in the third diagram, there is a disc floret, that is, there is a disc-like structure, and there is a ray floret. Okay, so onto that disc floret, there is a gynoecium present, where there is ovary downside. In the second diagram, I have shown you that single disc floret. So it's at the downside there is ovary, which is green colored. Then ovary encloses ovule. Okay, next to that there are calyx. Then next to that corolla, then anthers, and at the end there is a stigma. So this is a green colored part which is present at the center of that sunflower floret. Okay, so if you observe the first diagram, see, there is a small flowers like structures are present, which are so called as floret, and I have shown the single floret indicating each and every part: stigma, anther, corolla, calyx, ovule, and ovary. Okay, next to those floret, there is somewhat filament like structure present. If you observe carefully, there is a black colored filament like structure present next to that floret in the first diagram. So what is that? That is so called as ray floret, because it looks like a ray. So what it is consisting of? It is consisting of the corolla, the yellow part. If observe that fourth diagram, there is a corolla which is yellow colored. Then after that there is a stigma. Then downside there is a pappus, which is a feathery structure, and at the downside next to that there is ovary. So these are disc floret and ray floret, which are present in somewhat whorl-like structure onto the central part of the sunflower. Only difference is that, or the point to be noted, that androecium matures earlier than the gynoecium, and therefore it is so called as protandry. Then next is protogyny. So in protogyny, the gynoecium must mature first than the androecium, and the example is nothing but gloriosa. Diagram or the picture I have shown to you. So in gloriosa, that gynoecium part will mature first than the androecium, and therefore it is so called as protogyny. Then prepotency, what it means, that we will see. Pollen grains of the other flowers germinate rapidly over the stigma of the pollen grains from the same flower. So the best example for this is nothing but apple. So these are the flowers for that apple. Apple flower looks like this. Okay. What is prepotency? Prepotency means pollen grains of other flowers germinate rapidly over the stigma than the pollen grains from the same flower. So बाकी के जो कुछ flowers रहेंगे, उनके जो pollen grains है, that will germinate rapidly rather than the pollen grains of the apple flower. So which is so called as prepotency. Next is nothing but heterostele, which is also called as heteromorphy. What it means? In some plants like primula, or it is also called as primrose, there are 2 or 3 forms or types of flowers in which stigma and anthers, they are placed at the different level, and it is so therefore called as heterostyly, or it is called as heteroanthy. So this prevents pollens from reaching the stigma and pollinating it. In heteromorphic flowers, pollen grains produced from anther pollinate stigmas produced at the same level. So in heteromorphic, those pollen grains produced from the anther pollinate stigma produced at the same level. तो दोनों का height या level same होगा. Hercogamy, what it means? It is a mechanical device to prevent the self-pollination in a bisexual flower. Okay, so Caltropis, if you observe, I have shown the picture downside. There is a pentagular stigma present, right? So बीच में तो दिख रहा है आपको, that is somewhat wide colored structure. So if you observe it carefully, it is a pentagon, right? So that is stigma of that flower. So this is a pentagular stigma which is positioned above the anthers, that is pollinia. और बाजू में जो दिख रहे हैं, 5 structures are there, like, okay, so that violet color 5 structures are there, that is so called as anthers. Okay, and to avoid the self pollination, that stigma is placed upside rather than the level of anther. So hercogamy, what it means? It's a mechanical device to prevent the self pollination in a bisexual flower. In plants, natural physical barrier is present between 2 sex organs and avoid the contact of pollen with stigma of same flower. And the example is Caltropis, where pentagular stigma is positioned above the level of anther, that is pollinia. Then next is self-incompatibility. What it means? Self-sterility. So this is a genetic mechanism due to which germination of pollen on stigma of the same flower is inhibited. पहला जो दिखाया है, that is tobacco flower. Second दिखाया है, that is thea. Okay, so they cannot pollinate their own pollen grains. Okay, or pollen grains cannot be pollinated, or pollination cannot be done by their own side. The pollination is inhibited, and that's what is so called as self-incompatibility or self-sterility. So up to this we have seen about the pollination. We have seen 3 types. Then we have seen biotic and abiotic agents. Then as far as abiotic are concerned, there is wind and water, and biotics are biotic agents that include bats, that include insect, that include bird. Okay, and there are some terms we have seen. Okay, so this is something about the pollination, its type, and the biotic and abiotic agents involved. Thank you.